I have spent quite a bit of time away from YouTube. I honestly needed time to myself and reevaluate my aspirations, needs, and my own self-worth. And after all this time, I can confidently say that the year of Shadow is peak, baby! Can you see all of me? Walk into my mystery, step inside and hold for dear life. Okay, seriously, I'll try to be more consistent this year. With the end of Year of Shadow, it's about time I properly talked about Sonic the Hedgehog 3. As you can tell from the title, I love this movie. Being a loose adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2 obviously led to this movie's expectations to be high. But I think that this movie delivered, capturing the emotions and core of the original source material. And I think it even did well, improving on some story issues I had with the original game. And being that I've seen this movie an unhealthy amount of times, this video will obviously contain spoilers. So if you don't want that, please watch this movie before you see this video. Without further ado, let's get into my definitive Sonic 3 review. Before I get started into the real juicy bits of the video, I obviously gotta talk about what a crazy new direction this movie is taking as opposed to Sonic Adventure 2. The biggest change being Gerald Robotnik. I thought him being alive was blasphemous when you look back at the insane reveal at the end of Adventure 2. Though I do understand that broadcasting a madman's execution video in a PG movie was just a little too ambitious. I honestly thought that Gerald wasn't going to add too much to the story, and it was just a way for Jim Carrey to play two characters at once. Not that he wouldn't do a fantastic job, I just thought that Gerald wouldn't have the same depth as he did in Adventure 2. But I was genuinely shocked as to how well integrated he is into the movie. He not only serves as a larger villain alongside Shadow, but he plays a part into Eggman's arc in understanding that humanity is worth saving. Gerald's lunacy and no desire to leave humanity alive led Eggman to finally understand that there was that one person who cared for him and always stuck by his side, even when he was brushed off. Stone and Eggman's relationship comes full circle in the finale with the best character arc I've seen come from Dr. Eggman as a character. Jim Carrey really knocked out of the park by portraying the viciousness in Gerald and the humanity in Eggman. He is unironically Oscar bait in this movie, and I couldn't have asked for more. Speaking of the Oscars, why isn't Sonic 3 qualified for nominations? Like, I genuinely don't understand. Like, and people are going to come out and say, oh, it's because it was released too late. Nosferatu released 2 days after Sonic 3 and still got nominated at the Oscars. So, like, what's the reason, the Academy? I need answers now. I am genuinely about to crash out over this.
Last chance. Where is it?
Speaking of villains, Shadow being a full-fledged villain in this movie is yet another shift made from Adventure 2. While he was the most present antagonist in Adventure 2, I think they just underutilized his want for revenge in that game as opposed to the movie. It's more clear in the movie that Shadow plans to destroy all humanity for Maria's death. More on that, Shadow wasn't actually made to be a cure for Maria's sickness in the movie. Instead, he's an alien just like Sonic. I sat on this drastic change of his backstory for a bit, and I think I'm alright with it. Yeah, it doesn't really give Shadow any reason to be friends with Maria, but at the same point, it doesn't give Shadow a reason to be friends with Maria. Their friendship in this movie is solely based on Maria being the only human who doesn't see Shadow as a weapon or a monster. It's a more unconditional bond that they share, and I think that makes Maria's death all the more tragic by the end. So while this is a very loose adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2, I think the core emotion and themes of the game are still present, while still making the story connected to the movie universe. Still being in the Sonic movie universe, I was a little skeptical as to how they were going to keep that darker tone they needed for this movie. Because let's be honest, the first two movies are goofy as shit. So having all the corny pop culture references and flossing in a movie with Shadow the Hedgehog was a timeline I was afraid to have. Though they genuinely locked in with this movie. Bringing in Jeff Fowler to direct this movie was by far the best decision, as he's had previous work with Shadow. Because they were able to have that dark tone while still keeping that slight charm that the movies have. Yeah, Sonic says a bunch of one-liners and quips, but let's be honest, that's just Sonic. He's always been an annoying little shit. Why is this a problem now? Furthermore, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles have such good chemistry in this movie. They play off of each other so well, where they all feel like brothers to each other. Aside from that, I think they did a really good job at connecting Sonic and Shadow together in this movie. Sonic has never really been challenged the way he is in this movie. Being that he has a new team, he has to get adjusted with working together instead of feeling like he has to be the one to save the day. And that perfectly ties into the theme of the movie. choices and how your trauma can affect them, or the choice to not let your pain change who you are. When Shadow hurts Tom, Sonic is forced to relate to Shadow and why he is so overcome by vengeance. Because he makes the same choice Shadow made and locked the fuck in. I did not expect this movie to go this hard with Sonic's character and fully showcasing his brashness and impatience to an extreme. To the point where he uses his super form to defeat Shadow, leading to a visceral hand-to-hand combat between Sonic and Shadow. Followed by Shadow's snarkiness mocking Sonic on how he ended up not being the hero he claimed to be.
This ends now.
I think about this frame when I go to sleep and wonder, how did this trick me? And in the end, Sonic comes to his senses, and him and Shadow just talk.
Wow. Look at all those stars. They're like diamonds.
See, the biggest issue I have with Adventure 2's story is that it's a little too easy for Shadow to switch sides. In this movie though, there's genuine pushback and Shadow has this inner conflict where he's wondering if this is what Maria really would have wanted. So it makes this scene all the more important as they both just vent about their trauma. Have a genuine heart-to-heart about how Shadow has only known his anger for 50 years. How Sonic understands that pain when he lost his friend and his home. And how they can both fix their mistakes to live and learn.
One more thing I learned is that when you really screw something up, you can't fix it on your own.
Guys! You have no idea how badly I have been dying to talk about this final act. Reminder, I have seen this movie 5 different times. I quote this entire goddamn final act in my head. And Live and Learn in this movie permanently lives in my head rent-free where the IRS cannot find it. They had to get this final act right. I think out of all the things in this movie, this was the one thing that was going to make or break the movie, and they nailed it. The orchestral version of Live and Learn, Sonic and Shadow teaming up against gun robots, leading to Shadow making his sacrifice, peacefully accepting his death in his final moments. And he takes off his inhibitor rings, something I have been waiting for the past 20 goddamn years! I just cannot believe how insanely well this final act is. Yeah, it's a little all over the place, but let's be honest, so was Adventure 2's final story. If I had to complain anything about this act, it's that after a certain point, the Jim Carrey stuff honestly became a little tiring after a while. Like, it's funny, but you cannot go from Live and Learn to a fight joke immediately to a ridiculous death for Gerald. I still don't really know how I feel about that, honestly. And if I'm gonna be honest, Shadow's character arc fits a little too nicely. There's a lot of times where they'll use flashback scenes to connect Sonic and Shadow's past, and it honestly feels kinda forced at times. Even still, if I was only allowed to watch the last 30 minutes of the movie and nothing else, I'd still be happy. Because this just recaptured all the emotions I had when first experiencing Sonic Adventure 2. Really, just the whole movie in general. The whole movie felt right to me as a Sonic fan, along with loving the work they put into Adventure 2. The charm, the adventure, the sadness, the hope. It all just felt right to me. They did the story justice along with Shadow as a character, recapturing what made him terrifying but also what made him sincere. Little details like Limo Tissa Live and Learn into Shadow's theme, using the last scene OST during the final scenes, the small nods at Adventure 2, or talk about low-budget flights. No food or movies? We're out of here. Made the whole experience perfect for me. I thought they were out of steam after Sonic 2, but I cannot wait for more movies to come. Especially since they revealed both Metal Sonic and Amy. Okay, can we just talk about this for a second? 5 years ago, this was our Sonic movie. This is what we were supposed to originally get. Gangsta's Paradise was going to be a real song put into a real Sonic movie. There was a timeline somewhere where this abomination got released and the Sonic movie franchise died there. Instead, after Paramount was almost cancelled on Twitter of all platforms, we were given a franchise that just kept getting better and better. Video game movies that create the standard for future video game movies. Sonic movies that convince more people like Shay Willis to become Sonic fans. and movies that recapture what we all felt decades ago when these games first came out. The Year of Shadow was such a crazy year for Sonic, but this movie is the icing on the cake. While I do have issues with the pacing and just how linear some of the story arcs are in this movie, I still adore Sonic 3. It has great humor and charm without overstaying its welcome to let in the darker tones of the movie, amazing action, actually good music, along with a stellar third act. Plus, the movie just looks so goddamn gorgeous. As a huge fan of Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow as a character, I am so pleased that this movie exists at all. And with the Year of Shadow, I hope the Sonic franchise keeps soaring to higher and higher heights by giving us the Year of Silver! Thank you all so much for watching. I have been dying to talk about this movie from the first viewing all the way to the 5th, and I'm so happy I'm able to properly make content like this again. I've been making huge improvements on my scheduling and general mental health, so hopefully that's a sign that I can continue to push out content the way I want. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the little notification bell to get notified when future content released. Become a true Animaniac for up to $6 a month to get special access to scripts, videos, and a Patreon exclusive Discord where you can share your hobbies the same way I do. I'm your favorite Capital Boy, signing off.